Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening to this podcast. This is David Valenzuela with I Wish. I wish on today's episode we could have Ashley Curtis, Ageless Ashley on Instagram, also the Golden Experience Guide. You guys, we're going to get into when you should invest in a modality, when not to, save your money, building your first book of business, all things education, some really cool education experience or golden experience offers that she's got for the group, which is awesome, and just talking about the typical day in the life of an esthetician. So buckle up. This is a great episode. Today, I wish that I had Ashley Curtis of Ageless Ashley. I know that's your Instagram handle, right? On the podcast today. So we're going to cover a lot of amazing topics today, but I'm just going to welcome Ashley to the show and we'll get into it. Welcome.
Hi, David. How are you today?
I am awesome. And I'm really thankful that you're here and super excited to get into all things aesthetics with you today.
Yeah, me too.
So let's start off, Ashley, by telling the audience, how did your journey into aesthetics begin?
So I have been immersed in the world of aesthetics for over 18 years now. My journey started with a love for skin health, of course, and helping people feel confident in their own skin. I had really bad, cystic, grade 4 acne when I was a teenager from age 12 to 17. So the confidence piece was really important for me. And over the years, I've worn many different hats. I've been a sales employee. I've been a clinic manager, obviously licensed esthetician throughout all of this, but I've been a small business owner and now I'm a mentor. And I really am focused on education and helping other professionals and providers in our industry. I'm really passionate about education and empowering other estheticians to thrive in their careers while maintaining balance and self-care, because that's been the biggest struggle that I've faced throughout being in this industry for so long.
Yeah, so, people make jokes. I'll see a post in the group about being an entrepreneur and stuff. I'm like, yeah, no one tells you that you're going to work 7 days a week.
If you want to work all the time, work for yourself.
Right. You're like, okay, is there a sick day? Oh, no, that's me. No, there's no calling in sick. That's all. So we obviously wish, being acne focused, we have a lot of estheticians that come to the aesthetic industry through their own personal struggles with acne.
Mm-hmm.
So did you do tell me all the things that you did as a teenager with your acne?
Yeah, so I was really fortunate enough to have my mom. She took me to every dermatologist under the sun. She really wanted to help me. And so we went to several different derms. I did 3 rounds of Accutane. And I was on all of the different medications and topicals, and nothing was working. And it would just come back. Every time I would get off Accutane, it would come back. And I had to be really diligent and stay on everything. And my barrier was so compromised, and I was a chronic picker. And so finally, when I was 17, I don't know, I think maybe because my mom came from she had formal education background, and she just didn't really, I don't think she had ever been to an esthetician. So I think she thought the only route was dermatology. But I had a friend who was going to the esthetician and she had acne, and the esthetician cleared her pretty quickly. And so I was like, we should just try that. And so I went to this esthetician. She was actually a holistic, naturopath, and she did blood work, and she cleared me in 3 months, and my acne never came back in the same way. And I did a blood panel, and I figured out I had a lot of food triggers and things that I was eating every day, like eggs, just random stuff that I just never would have thought was triggering, actually was. Yeah. And so once I was able to cut all of that out, I was cured, and I was so inspired by this woman. I felt like she healed me, and I was if there was one, and I had no idea what I wanted to do at that point with my life or anything. So I was if there's one thing I could do and make an impact, I'll just go to beauty school. I'll become an esthetician. And it was, from there, I ended up going to college, and I put myself through school. I worked at a med spa, and I was making 6 figures by the time I was 21 at the med spa, and I put myself through school, and I had no student loan debt or anything.
Good for you. I love that. That's a great story. So you were working at the med spa before you went to aesthetic school?
I went to aesthetic school, and then, well, I was working as a receptionist at the med spa when I was going to aesthetic school, and then one of the estheticians moved away, and she had a full book of clients, and it was all
Right.
laser clients, and this was when laser was like brand new. So I got
Yeah.
super lucky, and I just kind of like fell into this position. But I learned so much. I worked there for 4 years, and oh my gosh, like I learned just an immense amount working for. We had 3 dermatologists on staff, and we had a plastic surgeon, a cosmetic surgeon on staff too.
Wow. I love that. I love the exposure. Was that in Northern California or Southern California?
That was actually in Reno, Nevada, where I grew up.
Oh, Reno. My God, the biggest little city in the world.
Yeah.
I could totally, I used to, so back sidetrack, but I used to work for Aveda for the first 10 years of my career. And when I was in San Francisco, Reno was part of my territory. So I've been to Reno a lot of times to like over the years and watched it grow and boom. And, we've got some Wish Pros there now, and I love it. Well, that's awesome. That's a good, so if you've ever heard me preach about when you graduate from school or being able to get exposure to the industry by whether you're working reception or just being able to be surrounded by other things that you would not normally have access to in the day to day, it's so helpful in helping shape your career because you get to really see things that you like, things that you love doing, and things like, all right, I don't want to be in the treatment room doing Brazilians all day. It's not my jam. I'm not interested. Like, like the people that have patience for lashes, I'm like, you have special
I know. I
genetics.
did them for a while. But I agree with you. I think, I learned a lot about what I enjoyed doing. And then I also learned a lot about business being in an environment like that, like being in a
Mhm.
big place. And that's what I
Yeah.
always tell estheticians too, right? When they graduate, like go work for a big corporate, chain of places, just to understand the business a little bit more so that if and when you decide to go out on your own, like you're a little bit more prepared and you're a little more savvy. I always say like the worst thing to do is practice your craft in your brand new business.
While people are paying you.
Yeah. And like you have to figure out how to run a business too.
Yes. So the business aspect of it, of course, huge opportunity, which is why when I was like, I saw your email and I was like, oh my gosh, more education. Yes. More education, more education, more education. There's so many things in the space that people don't get exposed to, business obviously being one of them. But do you know who Brian Durocher is?
No, I don't think so. Maybe.
Okay, so I've known him since my dermatologica time. So probably, my God, going on 20 years now. But he actually published an article, I think I saw it in Beauty Independent maybe a month and a half ago, about how med spas are actually not as profitable as people assume that they are. And there was like literally I was reading through it and so my physician friends that have gone into plastics or derm or whatever, and they start to add a spa component to their business. And they're like, David, I don't understand why am I not making any money? And so they're like, I didn't learn any of this in school. So then we do a little breakdown and we start talking about the cost per unit of an injectable or whatever it is, Dysport, Botox, whatever the injectable is. And then what they're paying a nurse usually, obviously, hopefully, to do the injections, the insurance that's carried, and then the competitive price point. So he basically was highlighting that there's this sort of a push in the medical world to come into the aesthetic world
Mhm.
where the profitability lives. And I was like, I just read that article and I thought, this is why so many times over the years I've heard doctors say, well, I don't make any money in my spa. They're treating it like their medical practice, which, as you know, it's
I
not a one for one.
I think people, especially when you first get into this industry, it's hard to wrap your head around your cost per service and your overhead. I think people
Yes.
forget that the overhead is huge. Insurance, there's so many things that go into like running and owning a med spa, period. And so when you don't understand your cost per service, it's hard to understand your profit margins. And if you don't
Yes.
have an understanding of those things, like how do you track it? And then, of course, how do you grow it? Because you can't grow what you're not tracking.
Yes. Like, oh my God, speaking music to my ears. Like, I love this. So one of the questions that I asked, which I think you touched on a little bit. So your first book of business, You were able to walk into a situation where an esthetician left and you were able to assume her clientele.
Yeah, she trained me, so she liked my personality. This is, I think, going back to what you were just saying, to like get your foot in the door. Like, it's so important to, even if you don't accept, if you can't get an esthetician position somewhere, like just go work at the front desk, because you never know, like this kind of opportunity might be there at some point. She liked my personality. She wanted to hand her clients over to someone who like she trusted and who she liked as a person. And so I was really fortunate enough to be trained on, she like took me under her wing. She taught me everything about lasers at the time. I was doing IPL, I was doing a lot of laser hair removal, but it was just so, it was so awesome. Like, it was an amazing opportunity. And, I really learned, because she had cultivated this clientele by giving such a great experience. I had learned the value. Like, I kind of had to step up to that right away, right? Like, I had to become this provider that was offering the same type. And she, at the time, like, she had 15 years of experience. So I had to become someone like her and provide this type of like luxury experience in this like very luxury, like high-end med spa when I was first starting out. And so that really taught me, when I was developing my own clientele years later in San Francisco, it is all about the experience. Like, it is all about making sure clients feel taken care of and heard and seen. And there's just really nothing else that matters when you're building.
Totally. Did you work for somebody in San Francisco or were you independent?
Oh no, I worked for a lot of people in San Francisco. I went all over the place. I worked for a cosmetics company for a while. I worked as like a boutique manager, and then I worked for a chain of like upscale boutique waxing salons for a while. I was training for them, and it was definitely a wild ride. And then I opened my first business when I was 25, and I was only in business for 2 years, and I was definitely treading water, and I did not understand, everything I understand now, but it was a great learning experience for me.
Yeah, totally. Well, and San Francisco is it's not for the ill at heart. Like, you got to really focus. It's definitely a higher cost. Your overhead is going to be much more expensive than being in a rural area. When you talked a little bit about figuring out your cost per service and like your profitability and your overhead and all of these factors. And I see it in aesthetic forums often. Somebody will ask a question about, what should I charge? How much should I charge? Or how'd you guys figure out your pricing? And then I see like 150 different answers and I go, well, there's a lot of opinions in here, but the reality is that everybody's cost structure is a little bit unique to them. And you can't just throw out a general whatever based off where you are. You should do a little competitive analysis. That's important. But your cost per square foot, the products that you're using, the sheets, towels, modalities, all your equipment, if you're paying a monthly stipend for a hydrofacial, like all of the things
Yeah.
that go in, that's for your independent business to make sure that you're making a profitable trade. We could go off on a whole tangent on that, but I know it's one of your classes. So I love that. I love that.
Totally. Like, I think, people do, what I see in my one-on-one mentorship sessions is, I don't think people are factoring in everything. Like you said, like the hydrofacial payment, the rent, the insurance, all of these things like should be factored into your cost per service.
Yes. It's a very interesting game because we were, for the last, like the first 2 weeks, which turned into almost like a month-long exercise, when you're going through the cost of actually formulating a product, all the research and development. So when I was initially looking into all the differentiation from drugs, obviously with acne and like what's OTC, back and forth. And some manufacturers will spend $1 billion, right? With a B, you guys, that's with a B, to get a pharmaceutical drug classified as a drug. Clinical trials, there's animal studies, there's human trials, all the testing of the clinical trials at the very beginning before they even get into.
Yeah.
There's a lot of time and effort and money. So when you start looking at, there might be 50 or 60 different raw material ingredients that go into a formulation at different percentages. They all have a cost associated with them. There's shipping associated with them. And this last year, Ashley, I don't know if you have how much exposure you have to this, but it's been like a wild ride based off what's happening on the global front with not only the climate, but war. There's a whole lot of things happening that are affecting. Now we're getting ready to have a whole bunch of different possibly tariffs. And like, it's just it's a huge exercise, but it's such an important exercise because if you don't take the time to do that,
Yes.
you'll put yourself out of business
Yep.
by not understanding your true cost of your service. So I love that. I love it. I love it. So let's talk a little bit about so when you're actually seeing clients the day that you're not doing mentoring, give us a day in the life of Ashley. Like, what does your day look like when you're in your treatment room servicing clients? Give us a day in the life.
So my days are always different because I do see I still do see facial clients, but I have a really limited number of facial clients now. So I have like probably 45 to 55 facial clients that I see at this point. And I've really curated this clientele. And on the days when I'm not seeing facial clients, it usually does start with a mentorship call, a one-on-one call, or like a follow-up. I stay really like connected to the mentees that I have and I'm there for them. Like it's not just we get off the call and it's done. If they have a question, a lot of my days like are curating content for estheticians and giving out like free content to drive the courses on Golden Experience Guide. And it's so much more about just creating a community and cultivating the community in my day-to-day life at this point.
Yeah, totally. So I feel I feel it like in my soul right now about the energy. You do a lot of energy. You pay attention to the energy. I see your numbers and your pricing and stuff. I was like, oh, I totally understand all of this. We're going to talk about that. The fact that it's called the Golden Experience. Love it. I love it. I love it. So let's talk a little bit before we get into all the fun things how that even came to be. So you've been practicing obviously for 18 years. You've seen a lot of things. What have you seen that's evolving since you started now? What trends are you currently observing 2024 now moving into 2025? And I want to underline the word trends because you've been around long enough to see things come and go. What trends are you noticing right now, Ashley, in the aesthetics world?
Well, I like to evaluate trends really critically. Like if a trend aligns with science and complements
Mhm.
established practices that I already am doing and providing for my clients. I like to integrate a trend, but I really try to stay rooted in timeless techniques like proper cleansing and facial
Yeah.
massage. And that's really like the basis of what I have built my business on and what I've built my practice on. Like you said, the energy work, I am Reiki certified. So sometimes I'll do
Mm.
Reiki energy for my clients if they're into it, like if that's something that they want. And sometimes I think just the human touch, that experience for someone can go like way beyond trends. And so, yes, like I think there's a place for trends. And I think obviously we're in an industry where the trends are always evolving and there's always something new. But I like to
Yeah.
put emphasis on like the tried and true and just again, tying it all back to the experience and giving the clients a golden experience. Like from the moment you start communicating with them is what I always like to say. It's not so much about like when they finally get into your clinic and they're laying on your treatment table. It's more about like how are you interacting with them online? Like what is your Instagram presence? Like what are you like in email communication? What are you like on the phone if you have like a phone line and you're talking to people? Like it really starts from like the moment they start interacting with you before they even come in to see you.
Yes. Yes. Do you have an opinion? So the customer experience, obviously huge, such a big customer service, which one of those things that you learn working in big environments. Do you have an opinion about estheticians having a website?
Oh my gosh, I have so many opinions about this. I think all estheticians should have a website. I think all estheticians you should really have a booking site and a website.
Mhm.
But if you're going to just have one, I would say you need to have a website, like even over a booking site, just so that someone can get a vibe and get to like know you as a person, as a human. Like your website should have your full name on it. That's a mistake I see a lot. It's like I'm looking for someone who I'm mentoring and I'm typing in their full name into Google, trying to find their website before I know what the website is. and like it's nowhere. Like they either just have their first name or like that's a hot tip. Like put your full name on your website. It's a really
Yes,
common mistake.
yes. There was a post a couple weeks, it's probably been a month now, and it was asking about, when I talked to Maria, money making esthetician, I'm like, Maria, your website
Love
is like your
her.
front door. No, I love Maria. I love her. It's like your front door, right? So your people are going to research, and we've done a lot of. I'm going to post probably in the next week or so, but all the different metrics about how people are searching and which demographic. Which, by the way, there's a new generation. I think it's starting this week actually that comes into effect. Maybe it's 2025, and I was like, wait a minute. So just all the Gen X people just got pushed, and now are we official boomers now? Like, what happened? It's crazy, but there's different search trends based off people's age brackets. So if your target demographic is teenagers, the interesting thing is the moms are the ones usually making the decisions for their kids. So putting stuff on Snapchat for the teenager to see, it's really, you should be targeting the moms. They're making the buying decision for their teenage, a whole nother thing. But I agree with you. I'm like, website, you guys, it is your home base for what people want to find information out about you. And the other thing that I preach is about niching and really having a focus for your business. So you're like, people are going to come to you for a specialty. And I was in we'll just say a heated discussion with an esthetician on the East Coast who didn't want to include acne in her name. She wanted to call it, I'm going to mess it up now. It was like corrective facials or something. And I was like, okay, listen, that's a thing. But when someone has acne, they're not typing in corrective facial. They're like, I have acne or pimples or zits or something that's common. And that's going to bring your search engine optimization up by and we finally agreed. And
I was just going to say, it is really all about the SEO. I think people get caught up in like what their feed looks like and like what everything
yes,
looks like the glamour of it. And it's not really about that, especially when you're building a clientele. Like once you have established and you've built a really solid clientele, then you can like, change things, tweak things, like call yourself whatever you want. But like, I
yeah.
agree with you. I think that your SEO is so important and it's so easy. Like Squarespace, if you have a website on Squarespace, like you can just click a box and they'll do your SEO for you.
Hi, everybody. This is David Valenzuela with I Wish Podcast, founder of Wish Skin Health, asking for a gentle, friendly reminder. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up. If you've got a question or comment, leave it below. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review. Type out a question, type a comment, something that you loved. It means the world to us and all this work that goes into this podcast. We would love it. We'd also like to let you know that this episode has been generously sponsored by Wish Skin Health. Wish, which stands for Wisdom Inspired Skin Health, is focused on the holistic treatment of acne without the need for potentially harmful prescription medication. If you're looking to level up your aesthetic practice, we would love to have you as a certified Wish Pro. Visit trywish.com, that's TRYWISH.com. Click on the Pro tab for further details. Now back to the episode. Yeah, I was talking, I think with Maria on the last podcast about how it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. You can literally build out a website for next to nothing. And it is just, there's some things to think about. Try to get a name that you can align with whatever your Instagram, Facebook handles are. Like that's a big deal. Think about it up front. You're like, I already named my bit. It's okay. It's all right. But if you're starting from zero and you're going to like build it out, try to get things that are not already taken. It's helpful. All right. So let's talk about I love this because I just got an email, you guys, a couple weeks ago, maybe it was last week or a week and a half ago from Ashley. And she was talking about the different offerings, the golden experience, which I love that. So the reason that you even came into my ethos, Ashley, it was like a year and a half ago, right? And you were talking to the industry about people selling around. And I know there was a specific brand that caused a lot of uproar with like, now you have to have a medical advisor. And I'm like, wait, people are paying medical. Wait, I totally like lost my cookies for a minute about like all the things to spend money on, and you're paying somebody so that you can carry a product line. It just really threw me for a loop. So that's when you came into my awareness. So I've been paying attention because I watched you go to see Beyonce and like all the fun things. I was like, that's amazing. Of course, right? Babe's on tour. Let's go. All the fun things, but also I've seen your how you're mentoring people and having people come into your space and really talk about the power of touch and how you're actually doing a treatment start to finish, like the whole hands-on aspect of it, which I love that. And I always want to promote, support, put my arms around education because it truly is the dividing factor between excellence in the entire industry. So more education. So first of all, tell me how the idea of the golden experience even came to be.
So I was recognizing a pattern in all of my friends in the industry's lives, who have been doing it for as long as me. And, this pattern was like, how do I get out of the treatment room? How do I create more impact and like teach people what I have learned? And I was thinking about like different ways we could collaborate. So we started collaborating, doing like webinars, and we started doing like a free offering in Golden Experience Guide at first. And it was called Golden Hour. And it was basically like a place where estheticians could come every month and log on to, a free Zoom call and ask questions to a group of like esthetician mentors, people who've been in this industry for a really long time and who have probably been through whatever they're going through that they need help with. So that's kind of how the Golden Experience Guide started. And then we wanted to make it a little more accessible. So we created self-paced master classes, and you can go on and see all the different things that we teach. But basically, there's like a melasma guide. There's a massage course by Alex Pentecost. Phenomenal. And we have a few other offerings on there, but it's, it became like this hub of like you said, education, which is really what I'm super passionate about, and sharing everything that I've learned, all the really hard lessons that I learned like the hard way. I wanted to like make it accessible, and I don't really believe in like the old way of like paying your dues, because I had to do it that way. And so I really wanted to create a space where people could go and just pay for it, just pay for their education, like to learn
Yes.
the hard lessons. And so yeah, that's how Golden Experience Guide came to be. I just did a mastermind for the entire year this year called Superpower Your Solo Practice, which was um really amazing. It was about 60 people in the mastermind who
Oh,
signed up in December of last year. And we have a monthly call every month where I'm sharing a lesson, and where I'm doing like really involved like Q&A sessions at the end of the lesson. And after doing this mastermind, I started recognizing patterns. Like I feel like that's something that I'm really good at, is recognizing like different patterns. And I started feeling like there were a set of lessons that could be really, really helpful for estheticians. And I wanted to, again, make it accessible. So I created something called Masterclass Mondays, which is starting in December. And it's going to be a series of 6 master classes where I'm teaching them live. So you can come and you can do a live Q&A with me. You can watch the lesson be taught live, and then we can chat about it afterward. And so that's what's next for me. And I'm really excited about it. I have a couple different offerings, like the classes. Again, you can buy them all apart, or you can purchase like an all access pass to the courses.
I love it. I love the education. So you said a couple things that are really, really key. And the when we started the premise for this podcast, we sat down and we put some benchmarks together for like who could be a guest coming on here. And it's been so weird, Ashley, because I didn't really ever think about other brands approaching us to come on here and like promote products. I'm like, that's not what this is.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not what this is. I'm like, thank you for offering us money, but it's totally not what the jam for this podcast is. The premise behind it was people that are doing things successfully, that have experience, so that you can overcome hurdles or like missteps that things have done. You've learned along the way through the hard knocks. And if you can avoid those pitfalls. But the thing that I want to underline about what you just said is the mentorship aspect of it, because you have experience.
Yeah.
There's so much crap coming into our industry. I watched it like explode the last year and a half of like people selling $49.95, $19.95, $22.95, these crappy, not coming from an experience. I used AI to generate this entire thing. And I look at it and I go, this is crap. And no one's policing it, right? The industry is the wild, wild west. So I see these girls falling for just crap, not good guidance. That's not coming from a place of experience. It's coming from a cash grab. It's just not legitimate, in my opinion. And it just kind of taints the waters for those that are actually doing it right and coming from a place of experience. having 18 years of experience is priceless. Obviously, there's a lot of value that goes into that. Side note, next year will be my 30th year in the industry,
Oh
which
my goodness,
freaks me out.
congratulations. That's amazing. You look so young. I would never guess that.
Oh, well, you know what? I was really, really young when I started, and I had no idea that it was going to turn into this. I had no idea. I mean, there's been a lot. So thank you. I mean, it's dry right now, you guys. Palm Springs, there's no moisture in the air. I'm like, where's the moisture? So let's talk about, okay, so let's talk about the professional. So who is your target audience for who should actually want to take one of your classes? Like, what level of experience should they come in at?
I think you could come in at any level. I would say you want to be a licensed esthetician, like you want to have a license. I think sometimes I get approached by students, as
Yeah.
aesthetic students. And of course, they're so eager and hungry for knowledge, which I love, but it's so hard to retain information and it's so hard to put anything else into your brain when you're in beauty school and when you're going to school to get an aesthetics license. Like just focus on getting your license. And then I would say, who it's really tailored for is the person who is feeling kind of stuck with their price points, is feeling kind of like,
Mhm.
I don't know how to raise my prices. I'm not really sure. I don't have an understanding of how to track, how to, create a better experience that can warrant a higher price point. It's for the esthetician who wants to get unstuck in that way. Who
Yeah.
wants just like a better understanding of it. And it doesn't matter like how long you've been in business or even if you're working for someone else, I think the master classes can be extremely valuable because we're talking a lot about the client experience. We're talking a lot about how to really provide experiences for clients. And so you can do that when you're working for someone else. But of course, when it's you on the line in your name and your business, like it's really important to do that.
Yes, I love that. So the thing to learn, and so I've also watched people post about the money aspect of our industry and people not feeling comfortable in either retailing a product. I'm like, you guys, you realize that she's going to go buy a product somewhere else if you don't retail it. So that's your revenue. Also being able or not feeling comfortable in how to have the conversation at the end of a service about asking for money or feeling awkward about asking for money.
I
I'm like, this is your livelihood.
I think that it's so important to understand that when a client seeks you out, they are seeking out a licensed professional for skincare advice, for that knowledge of what they should be doing at home. And so if you don't give them that knowledge, and that's all it is, I say estheticians aren't salespeople. We're not selling anything. We're literally providing knowledge to clients who that's what they're coming to us for. So if you don't do it, you're not really completing your job. You're not doing your job fully. And they, like you said, they will go somewhere else. Like they are going to go to Sephora. They are going to go to Target. They're going to go wherever to get the stuff that's really not going to work for them. And then you're in even
Yeah.
a worse position because your treatments are not really doing much for them if they're not going home with the home care.
Yes, which is such a huge. I've talked about it before, but there's an esthetician. I hope she comes and finds me at some point in life. But she basically is posted, I've been an esthetician for 30 years. I've never retailed anything. And the way that it was stated, it was like she was very proud of that. I've never retailed anything. And I thought, you know what? No one's ever educated you because that's your retirement. That's your house. That's your
Yeah.
business. That's your building. I've got a couple pros this past year that bought buildings. I can tell you that a lot of that happened because of their thriving retail practices.
Yeah.
But the it's education. It comes down to education.
It comes
I
to
love that so good.
education and it's not only your retirement, it's not only about the money. Yes, like it's an amazing source of income, but it's about the results. Like I always like to tie it back to the client, to the experience. It is about the results. And you know that your client is not going to get the results that they want if they're not walking home with the professional skincare. Like, period. That's really all it is about.
Yes, and you're going to it's just going to make lifting heavier for not having professional use products and just, yes, we should put an exclamation point right there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, so because you are in a mentorship role, what are some challenges or what are some common challenges that you see aesthetic professionals facing right now? I know 2024, depending on where you are, was a little bit of a weird year, but is there a common theme, so to speak, of like challenges that you're seeing across the board with people that are coming into your program?
I think people are afraid to charge what they're worth. Like, just to tie it back to pricing a little bit, I think people get caught up in things that don't truly affect their businesses. On like, if you're zooming in, I think people like to get distracted by politics, by whatever is happening in the outside world, things that are kind of out of their control, where I
Yes.
think there's so much that we have in our control that we can focus on, and we can really be that change that we want to see in not just like our industry, but like the world. Like, if you are putting the right value on your offerings, it makes our industry as a whole better. It ups the value, kind of like what you were saying about, the courses that are coming out from people who've only been in the industry for like a year or so, and they're putting it's like $20 or whatever. Like, they're kind of
Yeah.
devaluing the work. And that's what I see happening with the $60 facial, or, even the like $150 facial in a huge metropolitan area. Like, it's wildly underpriced. It undercuts everyone
Yes.
else. And I think that's a huge, like, I think people are so scared of like the economy and, whatever else that's going on. Like, it's not really, I think that's like a big struggle. If you can just focus on figuring out your profit margins and focusing and minding your own business instead of minding
Yes.
like the business of the world, then you'll be in a
Yes.
much better position.
Totally. The chaos of this. So I don't watch the news or anything. I'm like, have to check out of all of that because it gets
Same.
added stress for like, it's not serving you. But there is so, obviously being in this industry for 18 years, we have estheticians in the industry love to look at what other people are doing
Yes.
as sort of guidance. So I say, get out of the bowels of the internet and stop like sleuthing around Instagram and trying to figure out to make yourself look like somebody else's or what they perceive as somebody else is doing a really great job. And I'm like, that shiny Instagram account is usually a symptom of something else. So that's a whole other situation. But I really feel once I say all the time in Wish World, one size fits one. It's the same thing for your business and your specific environment, the economy that you live in, the clients that you work with, the zip code that you practice in is very different from somebody in the Midwest, somebody in New York, somebody in Florida. Your business is completely independent.
Yeah.
So yes, get some great ideas, but be yourself. You don't need to emulate anybody else. Like, nobody can be a better you than you. So famous, fantastic
I think
advice.
like limiting, like you said, your exposure to, I always say you want to create 10 times more content than you consume. And it's like a surefire way to get rid of that comparisonitis. Like, just literally have the discipline to put the phone down and put the feed down. Like you said, no one else, I always like to say, like, no one else can provide the same experience as you. Like, Sally down the
Yes.
street cannot give the same experience as you. So why are you selling that experience? Why are you promoting that experience? Like, you are a very different provider than literally every other provider out there.
Yes. And use that to your advantage. Like, there's only one of you. And like, it's such an awesome, I love it. You're speaking my love language. So Ashley, so in this world, the other thing, there's so much information coming in from every different channel, right? We've got Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Snapchat and like, and Google, and there's all kinds of stuff that's being fed that's, not traditional dermoscope or like traditional ways that estheticians get information. Where do you yourself personally look to stay updated on techniques, products, trends? What's your personal go-tos?
I love Dermoscope magazine. I've been a subscriber since I was 15 years old. So
Wow. Oh
I'm
my God. I love that.
like a huge Dermoscope advocate. I think that they are truly doing like an amazing job with education. And I have a mentor. I have a business mentor that I meet with twice a month. So I feel like that helps me keep my systems and operations running smoothly. It helps me like refine all of my strategies. I'm a big advocate for one-on-one mentorship. So I really like to like practice what I preach and stay on top of it for myself. And it's hard, like there are a lot of times when I meet with my mentor and I'm not feeling motivated, but it's so important to have that accountability with someone else. And that's the biggest thing for me, having a mentor, is it provides a sense of accountability outside of like your friend circle, outside of your family. Like, this is someone who has like a really bird's eye view of your business and someone who's been where you are. And so I really, really advocate. I think if you don't have anyone like that in your corner, like, find someone.
Yes. So, it's funny that you say that, having a mentor, because, everybody, we're all mentored by a lot of people, right? Like, I'll just be like, if I'm feeling uninspired, I'm like, okay, let's look at a Mel Robbins podcast today. Like, what can I
Yes,
listen to that's going to give me a little
totally.
entrepreneurial inspiration? But it's very interesting, Ashley, to be a business owner and to check yourself. I get a lot of accolades. So there's a lot of good positive
Yeah,
energy flowing my way and good experiences. And I get these before and after photos, and it's like amazing. And I'm sitting over here like, woo, this is amazing. We're amazing. And then I have to sit in the corner and I'm like, I need to check myself for a minute because my ego's getting too big right now.
totally.
And I tell my team, I'm like, you know what, you guys, you're not going to like what I'm about to say, but if I was to be sitting at this table right now as a consultant, I'm going to tell you what I would say if I was hired for another brand to go in and consult. And it's not going to be a popular opinion. It's going to go against everything that we're all sitting here kumbayaing about, but it's important. And I catch myself and I go, if I was a consultant right now and I was addressing this situation with not my money involved, completely out of the equation, how would I address this? And it takes me to task sometimes because it makes me have to do things I would not normally want to do in the moment. But just having the wherewithal to say, is that the best usage of my time right now? And it's probably not, because the one thing you can't get more of is time. There's only so much time in the day. You can't get more. So when you're looking at the big picture of things and you're like, yeah, this is probably not the best suited thing for me to do. And even though I want to do it or I take enjoyment from it, there's other things that take more priority.
Yeah,
So having that person, I have a couple people too that I refer to that will like,
bring it
no,
back.
David, what do you do?
Yeah. I think it's just bringing it back to reality. Like, a lot of times I chat with my mentees about, their shiny object syndrome. It turns into like therapy, because that's really what business is. It's a big like self-discovery, in my opinion. When you're in business for
Yes.
yourself, it's really about going deeper and going inward and figuring out what you're made of, and what you can overcome. And that's really all being in business is about, is like overcoming failures and overcoming shiny object syndrome, which we talk about a lot. But
Yeah.
a lot of times we're sitting there and it's like, this person wants to invest in a new skincare line, but they already have 5 skincare lines and
Yes. Oh,
it's already working, it's already like their business is a well-oiled machine in terms of retail, and they need to work on another aspect of their business, like hiring another provider. And just having someone that can like see that from an outside view, like it reels them back in a little bit.
yeah. And it's priceless information because or priceless advice because it will propel your business forward. Even if it's an unpopular opinion, to have somebody looking at it from the outside and say, this is what I think. You're allowed to push back. You're
Yeah.
still going to have your opinion. It's still your money. It's still your business. But if you can avoid something or get to a place you want to go faster, maybe a little bit more efficiently, then yes, I get it. So our industry, uh, it's been a very interesting thing to watch all these now going on 3 decades of like stuff happening. And the very first podcast or webinar that I did with Maria with money making, I was talking about really researching your partners. It's very, very important in 2024, now going into 2025, that you guys understand where you're going to spend a lot of money with brands, on devices, things, to do a little research up front and understanding where everyone's in a different life stage. So we've got a lot of acquisitions happening in the space. Unilever, L'Oreal, Estee Lauder, private equity, like there's been a lot of things swallowed up. And it changes the dynamic between a brand and a solo practitioner. It does. It changes. I say that because I lovingly want people to be educated about a decision that they're going to make. If they're going to invest a bunch of money in something and then 6 months, they can't get somebody to call them back, you can avoid some of those things by doing the research up front. So that's just the 15-minute Google search. You can figure out how it can save you a lot of grief in the future. So let's talk a little bit about products and specific clients and stuff. Are there any DIY practices or at-home treatments that you have seen with your clients or that you would like to dispel amongst the masses to avoid?
Well, my mom was here for Thanksgiving and she is always asking me like about the latest trends in skincare. And she goes to her husband, she says, "Do you know that the girls are putting beef tallow on their face as moisturizer now?" And I just like I couldn't like and then like of course we've been asked about this so many times and I'm like my
Yes.
eyes are just rolling in the back of my head. Like I cannot understand like these TikTok trends. And I just think don't listen, don't get advice from your local influencer or like influencers are great for learning new recipes or there's so many like fashion trends. Like there's so many
Yeah.
things that like influencers are great for or like home improvements. But like when it comes to your skin and your face, like you really want to be trusting a licensed professional. And so I would just say like disregard any skincare advice from an influencer who is not a licensed professional. Like that's number one.
Yes.
And then just
Yes.
develop an understanding of like where these brand partnerships are coming in. Like that's another thing you touched on a little bit, the acquisitions and a lot of skincare brands are being acquired now by bigger companies. They have bigger marketing budgets. They are using influencers more often. And so you have to be the discerning client. You have to be that person who is doing the research, who is seeking out advice from a licensed esthetician. Because we are the guides for skincare. Like we are the proper guides for skincare. That's why I don't think we should be required to have medical oversight because it's in our wheelhouse, skincare is. So why are we being required? Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But I think, I think as a consumer, the best thing you can do is seek out and it doesn't have to be an in-person consult. It can be a virtual consultation.
Yes. It's very, very important. So I think this is where why there's so much opportunity in the aesthetics wheelhouse. Not only because over here in Wish World, we're acne focused and just giving consumers, clients, people struggling with acne, the option to say, you know what, I really don't want to go on antibiotics every 6 weeks because my acne flares back up again, or I don't want to be on spironolactone and mess with my hormones and have to urinate every 20 minutes, or Accutane and all the things. Some people, there's whole groups dedicated to it. And I've done a lot of podcasts about it, but it's just opportunity for the aesthetic community. And it comes down to education. So if you want to focus and thrive on something in this industry, you're going to have to get more education. So where did you go to aesthetic school?
I went to a very small aesthetic school and then I did do the Sedesco certification through Aveda afterward.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So my Aveda, okay, shout out. I love Aveda. So you guys, I probably have an Aveda product somewhere sitting in my office right now. And this is no harm, but we get a lot of people that come out of Aveda school. And, Aveda is fantastic. I was using beautifying composition this morning. Smells amazing. I did it for 10 years. I was in Vichy shower treatment, like the whole
I
thing,
love
right?
Vichy treatments. They're like my favorite thing.
I mean, and think about that. Well, I'm older than you, but back in the 90s, like where would have just like, these huge multi-hundred gallon tanks of water
I
that we
know.
would just blast out of the Vichy in California, right? So like a totally different day and time where we're like, siphon the water now. There's no water left. It was just a different day. So my girls that come out of Aveda school, I'm like, listen, if you really want to focus on acne, you're going to need further education. You're going to need more product offering that's focused on acne treatment. And so it's not everything in the acne treatment world is in the Aveda space as far as the ethos and the knowledge and everything. And so it's a little bit of learning, unlearning. There's nothing wrong with it, you guys. A feel-good treatment is a feel-good treatment. It's amazing. When you want to focus on acne, you're going to need a little bit different sauce.
Yeah.
We'll say that. So so depending on where you've gone to school or how many hours you've had to be exposed to, Florida's got a very low count for getting your aesthetics license right now. California, what is it? 640, I think. I think it's 640. 600 hours for California. So depending on, there's states like Utah that have master aesthetics license, or like in the Northeast, there's a couple different, there's different education. So when I go and speak at schools, there's variance. The school is designed to get you to pass your state board wherever you are. All the things that you're going to learn after you graduate are how you're going to become successful.
Yeah.
So it's just this knowing that, going to traditional college for me, it was just really a bucket list item. I actually finished my degree during the pandemic. But I can tell you that owning and running a business, it's not something you're going to learn in school. So there's all this postgraduate education. You'll continue to educate yourself till you die. It's just something that's part of the industry, and you got to love it, because the day that I sit here and I'm like, actually, I know everything. I need to go home, right? It's time to
Literally,
clock out and go home.
I think you have to become a forever student.
Yes.
That's the key in this industry specifically. Like you said, the moment you stop learning or being open to learning a new way, I've known estheticians who have been doing it for 40 years who they are really stuck in their ways. They are still giving the same, microdermabrasion facial that they gave
No.
20, 30 years ago. And they're not, thriving. Like, they're not getting new clients. And I wonder why, because they're not keeping up with the latest, not even technology, but like it's a mindset, like the forever student is a mindset.
Yes, it totally is. So, we were very, very opinionated back in the day. So Horst, who was the founder, who's passed away of Aveda, was very concerned about the well-being of the service provider, esthetician, massage therapist, nail technician, hairdresser, and things that you're being exposed to over and over and over during the day. Because you're, spraying the stuff, it's blowing around, and you're not just the consumer at home getting ready in the morning, you're spraying this hairspray 10 plus times a day. So that was a very big concern. But I remember when microdermabrasion came out, this dates me. Oh my God, I feel old right now. What no one was paying attention to was the particulate in the air in a treatment room when you were doing a microdermabrasion service,
With
where
crystals.
the
Yeah.
provider and all
Yeah.
these dissipated crystals were flying around in your treatment room that you were breathing. No one was really educated on wearing a mask back then. Like, just, all of those random things that become now just seem like second nature. Like,
Yeah.
so I love that. So tell me what your thoughts are. I think one of the other things that's gotten a little out of control in the industry is the modalities and how many things. So what are your thoughts, Ashley, on modalities? Just give me your honest opinion about modalities, because I feel I'm very strongly opinionated about this, but I want to hear your thoughts.
I am too. And anyone who knows me knows my opinion about modalities. I think modalities are a great enhancement for your unique signature offerings, which is what I truly believe estheticians should be promoting, should be focusing on, should be really, really adamant about developing. And that is, the service that you're giving with your own two hands. Like, I think your own two hands, and that is your best modality. Everything else is like a cherry on top. I have a hydrofacial machine. I really, really like the service. I really like, the results that the service renders. I have a lot of gadgets. I have a lot of things that I use, a lot of technology that I use in my facials. I use LED, I use microcurrent, I use hot and cold therapy and RF and microneedling. And, there's so many things that I'm using that is a modality and it is a device. But when it comes down to it, my clients are not coming back for the devices that I own and that I have in my treatment room. They're coming back for my hands. They're coming back for the human touch. They're coming back for the experience that we're providing. So again, just to like reiterate and drive home, like, it truly is about the experience. It truly is about the human touch for me.
Huge, huge, huge. So I say that all the things that you just said, yes, underline 100%. There's a place and time for modalities. If you are a brand new esthetician just graduating from school and you need to borrow $40,000 from your dad to buy your hydrofacial machine, not the right time.
No.
There's a space and time for all modalities, and it shouldn't be a stretcher. So I'm going to ask you about trade shows in a second, but I was walking by a booth at a trade show this last year, and I heard the rep from a company saying, we just do a soft credit check. And I was like, run away, run away. You should go buy a Tesla, like, run away. Is this the biggest priority for your business today, right now? And if you reach a place where it's financially comfortable for you to invest in a modality, fantastic, then do it. But there's a right time and place to not stress
Yourself
you
out.
invest.
Yeah.
Yes,
I agree with you. Oh my gosh. Like, I think okay, first of all, the reps, it's getting out of control. I think that there are so many devices on the market now that are being marketed to and sold to estheticians in states where they cannot even legally perform those
Yes.
services. And so I think that's a
Yes.
huge problem. And I
Yes.
also think it's a problem that the reps are independent contractors and they're working for, different companies. They're not just a rep for one company, but they're working for like 5 different companies. You have to remember for these reps, like it is their business to sell
Yep.
you a device. So just keep that in mind when you're at the trade shows and when you're walking around and you don't have a lot of money to spend, maybe, or you're in your first, second, third year of business, even. Like there are more important things to buy than a $60,000 hydrofacial machine, or, like it's getting out of control. Like,
Yes.
like how I will say I did buy my hydrofacial machine. That was the first thing that I bought in my business, but it was so hard. Like it was so difficult to make that payment, and I paid it off really quick because I was so stressed out. And I think about like, had I just waited a year, like it would not have been like that.
Yes. Right. I know it's a thing. So we participated in a couple trade shows this past year, and I'm not a big fan. I like to actually attract a little bit more of a focused my mindset and model. But I actually spoke to the powers that be on the trade show floor about how many of the booths were actually offering things that were out of scope. And I said, listen, you guys, we're in California, and you've got predominantly California estheticians walking around the show. And there are things on this floor that are completely out of scope that these brands or companies are saying that they're okay. And who should be held accountable for that? Because the esthetician is like, well, I'm at the show. I have access to this. I can buy it. Everything's fine. The states, the board of cosmetology was there. And I'm like, looking at this thing. And I'm like, that's cool sculpting. That's like not, that's like a cool sculpting thing. Like that is not in the scope of an esthetician. And it just shouldn't even be on a trade show floor like that. I get that there can be med spas running around there, but the predominant person that was walking around that show were independent estheticians.
Yeah. And I
It
think
was not a med spa show.
that's the problem, is that, the device companies, they are in a money business. They are in, they are making a lot of money from their sales. And so they are able to buy space at the trade shows. And it's
Yeah.
kind of correct in that sense, in my opinion.
Right. So this goes back to when we talk about shiny objects when you're seeking out education or you're looking for a course to purchase, you do a little bit of research, and it's not, yes, things have been on sale. I know we're just coming off Black Friday, and like, I get it. I was purchasing raw materials on Black Friday. Like, I get it. I know there are things that are going to be, shiny, but when you're making investments for your business, they should be educated, thought out, not just because it's on sale. I'll tell you a funny story, Ashley, because it was just me being ridiculous. So after I served with Face Reality's CEO, and I was just starting to get the wherewithal together about, I'm going to put together a brand. I spent an enormous amount of money on packaging because it was on sale during Black Friday. Not having I hadn't gone through the stability, compatibility of like what my formulas were actually going to be. I was just like, and I still literally in our warehouse, I'm like looking at these cases of like thousands and thousands of dollars. I just need to literally send it to somebody that actually still uses it, because I'm never going to use it. We're never going to use it. So I myself got caught in the trap too. Like, oh, it's a great deal. It's a great deal. No, David, it's not a great deal 5 years later, taking up space in your warehouse. Like, it's not a good deal.
And it's not serving your business just because it's a good deal. It's not serving your business just because everyone else is doing it in states that they're allowed to do it. Like, if you're in California, you can't microneedle, like, period. Like, just remember that when you're seeing these viral posts of microneedling, estheticians microneedling, like, it is out of scope for you.
So I was going to ask you, what are the differences that you've seen now being in Arizona versus California, as far as things that you can do in Arizona that you can't do in California?
Oh my gosh, everything. It's wild. Like, I feel like it's the wild, wild west out here. Like, I'm surprised we can't inject here. Like, it's literally,
Whoa.
like, I feel like it's crazy coming here. I think it's a little too conservative in California. I don't think there's any reason why estheticians shouldn't be microneedling, like in a
No.
controlled setting. Like we're better at it than nurses, like who are
Mhm.
focused on injections and focused on education for injections. And, that's their wheelhouse. Like, why aren't we able to penetrate the skin a little bit? Like that to me,
Right.
it just doesn't make sense. But yeah, it's totally different here.
You know what? You guys pay attention to your state board, whatever state that you are. Just pay attention because there's some things that have been up for deregulation that are affect your bottom line, and there's been some chemical exfoliation, kind of drawing back being able to do chemical peels in your treatment room. So pay attention to the legislation. Pay attention to your state board in your state because it's vitally important in your livelihood moving forward. I know California is very conservative. It's all good. I love that. So I could talk to you for hours,
I
Ashley,
know.
because you are there's so much good information, but a couple more questions and I'm going to let everybody
Yeah.
know where they can find you. So as far as like looking ahead, so now where you guys, this is in December, we're recording this, we're going into 2025. What developments do you see, Ashley? Do you have your eye on any sort of things that you see the industry gravitating towards as we round out this year?
Yeah, I mean, I see more focus on sustainability and personalized, like tech-driven skincare. I think that there's a lot more emphasis on continued education, which I love. And just like incorporating things that feel really good to use. I think that if you are thinking about like incorporating a new trend into your treatment room, like it's so important. What I see happening is I see people bringing in devices and bringing in technology into their treatment room that they haven't even tested. They haven't even
Yes.
they haven't even used on anyone else. And then they're like stuck. Like I was doing a hydrofacial on an esthetician who did hydrofacials on other people, and she had never had a hydrofacial, like, but she
Oh,
performed them on other people. So I
I
say
love
like it's so important to go to a physical, like hands-on training or get, a demo, have the rep come to your clinic and do a demo with the device before you decide to buy it. Like, I'm just surprised at how many people don't do this. So that's why I'm giving this advice. And then I would say, like, go have it done somewhere. Like, if you are thinking about bringing something in, like, go get the treatment somewhere where that's like all they do, or that's where they specialize in, and feel how the treatment should feel.
mhm. Yes, of course, get the exposure to it, see the price point, like just again, educate yourself on the decision that you're going to make. I love that. I love it. Okay, so the hour has gone by so quickly because we got such good information. Ashley, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can follow you, where they can learn about your courses, all the soup to nuts information.
So you can, first of all, you can go listen to my podcast. It's called Good Skin Circle. That's a good place to start. There's lots of really good free information there. I have like 125 episodes, so with lots of
Wow, that's
guests.
a lot. Yes.
Yeah. So go start there. You can check out goldenexperienceguide.com for self-paced masterclasses and for masterclass Mondays, which is coming up. And then you can find me on Instagram at Ageless Ashley. I also host in-person training, hands-on workshops in here in Phoenix, and they're really small sizes, but I teach you my protocol for the signature treatment that I've developed and built my business on. So that's the Golden Touch Workshop on Instagram.
I love all of that. Well, listen, I want to thank you so much for your time today. This has been eye-opening, enlightening. Again, you guys, education is the difference between good and great or being exceptional in 2025 as we're getting ready to go into 2025. It is such, if you're going to think about a gift to give yourself for Christmas, look at some education opportunities for yourself and your business for how to carry yourself forward, like propel yourself in 2025. Like there is nothing but opportunities.